Live. Technical difficulties. Hello and welcome to Glass House the movie. I'm Shannon Keith, writer, director, executive producer, chief cook and bottle washer, and this is my first ever doing a live broadcast. Some tomfoolery all around. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm really excited to be joined tonight by two really incredibly talented women, Irene Keene, and hopefully we have another very special guest who will be joining us, another cast member, as well as some crew members who may pop by. So about the film, and this is actually the first time that our two leading ladies have ever met. So technology is a wonderful thing, and quarantine be damned. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Irene Keene and April Love. Hello. Let me unmute you. There you are. Welcome.
Hello.
Say hello to each other. Can you see each other?
Yes. Yes. Hi. Hi, April. Nice to meet you.
Let's see. There.
Nice to meet you.
So here we are.
So Irene, you are playing. Here we are, and you are actually playing our lead, Madeline Tremont, who is a incumbent Republican, conservative, very conservative Pennsylvania representative. And April, you're playing Kelly Koval, a young, not so conservative staffer. And you guys have really tolerated a lot from me. I think I sent you, 25 trillion different rewrites of the script.
Yeah, the most latest was what? Last night? Last night, yesterday?
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the project?
April, you go first.
Oh, not put me on the spot. My thoughts on Project Call. Shannon, you know that I really enjoy working with you, so I'm excited, very excited to be on board with this project. I love the script. I just can't wait to get started.
Yeah, I was so flabbergasted / flattered when you contacted me, Shannon, last year, because truth be told, I'm late to the game in an acting career. I only started about 8 years ago. Just kind of fell into doing background and stand-in and stuff like that. And in 2015, joined SAG, mainly because of an Under 5 I did some 20 odd years earlier, but that's another story for another time. But this will be my first principal role. And Shannon, I remember when I said to you, I'm not a trained performer. I was very honest and said, I do have Under 5 experience, but I'm primarily a background performer, and I've done some stand-in and photo double and stuff like that. And you were like, I don't care. And that was just very flattered by that. I was very flattered by that. And I just hope I can do you guys proud and you'll have patience with me. But I'm looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've liked all the versions of the script. And I mentioned to you earlier in a text, I like how you have interwoven our current situation into the text, but yet it doesn't take over the narrative. It's there, it's acknowledged, but it's not what it's all about.
Right. And what of you just tuning in, what she's referring to is I'm in an MFA program, and Glass House is actually my thesis film, and it takes place in the political world. And lately, many of us have been grappling with living under quarantine and dealing with the impacts of this pandemic. And I thought, when it was questioned of me, where does your film take place? It takes place in the capital of Pennsylvania. Yes, but look at what's happening to you now. And as a filmmaker, you have to consider, we're going to be shooting this probably in the fall. Well, definitely in the fall, September. We don't know what social distancing and what kind of restrictions are going to be in place. So thinking not just as a writer, director, but as a producer too, and you have to consider limitations on set. And I know, Irene, I've been following, as far as background, a lot of actors are sort of in flux right now because things are being rewritten where they're basically writing background out of the background.
That is
because
that is,
of
that's
the
correct.
unforeseen state. So
I
that's
have
one of
no
the
idea when it's strictly background. I have no idea when I'll be working again, because my understanding is, and I'm just saying this hypothetically, say there's a scene that takes place in a stadium, that's just going to be CGI, all the people in the stadium. That will more than likely be CGI, or if they have footage of tiling. Are you ladies familiar with the phrase tiling, what that is? April, do you know what, have you familiar with that term, tiling?
What do you explain?
I'll explain. Like, for example, 2 years ago, I worked on The Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix film. And most of the footage was cut in the final film, but you may recall there's a scene. It's a fundraiser, and they're showing Charlie Chaplin's modern. I'm blanking out on which one it was, but suffice to say, they were showing a Charlie Chaplin film with a live orchestra. And there were about 500 of us in this beautifully restored former vaudeville theater in Brooklyn. And what they do is this theater was like Radio City Music Hall. So you figure it could probably seat close to 1,000 people, but there were only 500 of us. So they'll film us in a few rows and then in some other rows with a different group of people. And that's called tiling. And then they're able to put that all together. So it appears that a stadium or a Radio City Music Hall type of theater is packed full of people. So I think going down the road, they'll probably use a combination of old footage of tiling plus CGI. Meanwhile, I'm sure a lot of scripts are being rewritten to have maybe 2 or 3 background, if any, in the film. Now, when I can only speak from obviously I started off non-union, but now I'm SAG. And when you're SAG with a TV series, the first 25 people, for the first 25 background are SAG. Then after that is non-union. In a feature film, it's 85. So the point being, it's competitive as it is to try to be one of those 25 slots, say in a television series. If there's only going to be 3, it's crazy. So Glass House is a wonderful opportunity for me to get my feet wet in principal day player type roles, because going forward, that may be the only way you can get on a soundstage is if you have dialogue. So yeah.
Now, April, April, you and I met on the set of a film called Volition.
Yes.
Via a really incredible guy. Tell the story of your role in that film.
Well, I don't know where to start without revealing too much of anything. Sorry. Basically, that was a surprise project for me. I was approached by Ron Scott at the time, and he just said, "Hey, I think I have something for you." And then I got a little bit of script to practice on and audition with, and it got sent to Dan, and Dan was, so I was a little bit intimidated by him because I must
Now-
auditioned about 3 times. And for
Now-
real.
And there's Brian Evans, who we know from Volition. And speaking of somebody else we know from Volition, there he is, the man himself,
Hey y'all,
Hi.
Hello.
Dan Yeager.
how's it going?
Hey, Dan.
Hi.
Dan Yeager has been, goddamn, how long have we known each other? Since 2014?
Yeah, at least. Since Infect
2014.
Scranton, I believe was our.
Infect Scranton. Yep. It's that was a charity thing that I put together and got to meet Dan, and then became friends, and he's become sort of a mentor. I've sent him, we were talking before you got on about how many versions of the script I've tortured people with throughout the last couple of
Yeah.
years. And most recently I sent you late last night, the latest rendition.
It certainly has evolved.
With the, you're going to be, yes, it has. With the, you're going to be my Franklin, right?
yeah.
As the question
Yeah.
every time I sent the script.
Yeah.
I
So
think Franklin needs
we
to
can
have
say right now in this, our first live stream.
What was that?
So we've got, yeah, I missed what she said too. What'd you say,
I
Irene?
said I think Franklin needs to be smoking the stogies in the movie. I'm loving the cigar.
It is charming.
So Dan Yeager is a great all around guy, and he is the reason why I came to know April. He cast April as the woman in his film, which I was with the wonderful opportunity to be involved with. And April and I struck up a good friendship. And the whole time I was writing Glass House and thinking about the character of Kelly, I kept thinking about April. And then I happened to find, just by circumstance, I forget even, was it Actors Cabbage or Actors Vegetable or some sort of bizarre
Actors Access
site,
or, yeah,
Irene.
Actors Access or
Yeah,
something like that.
something. And it was just a picture and a phone call.
Yeah.
And then we met.
Yeah, that
Here
was
we are.
Mhm.
So Dan, you read
Yeah.
the script most recently. What are your thoughts about playing a scoundrel without giving too much away of the story?
Yeah, I mean it seems to be, I don't know. I think my only other, well, no, I've done a couple. No, it seems to be all I play when I'm actually allowed to speak words. It's either that or a monster with no lines. So that's kind of my thing. Yeah, and I think the trick with it is to, never try to be a scoundrel. Scoundrels don't go around, thinking of themselves that way. They think they're right. It's like playing a monster. You can't. You don't want to. You don't want to go around trying to look scary. It doesn't work that way. The character comes from somewhere else. It's all, well, like casting April as this pious Christian woman in Volition. No offense, April.
No, none taken.
That was casting against type, you know.
More on
Wait,
that
no.
later.
Irene, yeah,
To Dan.
a funny story.
You make Lloyd blush, for crying out loud.
Oh my gosh. I love Lloyd.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Irene, you were going to ask something of Dan?
I was going to say to Dan's point about monsters, the best monsters don't look scary. You know, in Steinbeck's East of Eden, the character Kathy, I don't remember the exact wording, but it's basically he when the character is introduced, she is described as a monster, and meanwhile she's this beautiful, beautiful young woman. So again, to Dan, what Dan was saying, the best monsters are not necessarily the ones who overtly look scary.
Very true. Very true. And one of the things when I was writing, I mean, and again, you all have had the luxury of reading all 20 billion versions of this. When I was writing, I tried to write each character, right, obviously for each character, and it was sometimes difficult to put myself in the mindset of each character and think and be and feel what that character was doing, what their motivation was in that particular scene. But it all basically, I think, comes down to control for me. I mean, obviously, as a director, I want to control, but for the characters, they want to be in control or regain control. And we lost April.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
There she is. She's back.
Wi-Fi connection. I just got a notification. I'm sorry about that.
Where'd everybody go?
Right here. You see
I
us?
can see what you mean.
I'm here.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Sorry about that.
So, Irene, what are your thoughts about your character? Let's talk about the story.
Enigmatic a little bit. I'm, again, because there have been several versions. For now, anyway, I have to, focus on the most recent one, which I admit I read through. I didn't read it really, really thoroughly. Obviously, I will do that, but I think from what I'm gathering is she feels that she has to perform a certain way because of, between society mores and being in the public eye, particularly in politics. And I think there's again, without giving too much away, I think there's a whole other side of her that wants to come out, but she's just constrained at the moment, but is, particularly after she meets Kelly, realizing that no, she wants a different life. That's my take thus far.
And April, what's your take on the film and your character and the journey?
Basically, I think Kelly doesn't really have her sense of direction figured out throughout the film. I don't know what to say without giving it away. She just doesn't have it together yet.
Dan? I think Dan's asleep.
No, I saw your lips move. I didn't hear anything. I assumed you were.
I said, what are your thoughts on Franklin, the power behind the throne?
Yeah, I think you said more than before that this was part of a larger story, and there are there are a number of Easter eggs in that script that, you know, are going to be fleshed out. You know, I mean, it changes the dynamic completely. So we'll have to figure out what, you know, Franklin's underlying motives are. I haven't formulated a fully realized character yet, but you know, it's gonna depend somewhat on what's still in your head. So,
and how unjumbled I can make it. One of the things that Dan's talking about is the fact that I'm looking to take this film, this thesis project, Glass House, which is about, I think this last version of the script was 22 pages, and use it as a proof of concept so that we can send it out to the festivals and shop it around for to get picked up and produce the feature length script, which kind of takes the core story that we're going to put out there, but it's the expanded in the whole story so that you see the whole thing as I see it in my head. So that's the ultimate goal with this.
Well, that would be great because there
with
is
production to start in September and then
because there's so much rich material for all three of us, you know, all of us and the other characters as well. So it would be great if that material can be recaptured one day, you know, beyond this initial version.
That's the idea. So is there any kind of anything that you guys want to talk about with regard to filmmaking? Dan, advice to anybody that's watching that maybe wants to do a project, get involved?
Advice? Don't follow me. I'm still trying to do all my own project. You know, it's hard. You know, when anybody ever asks me, you know, should I do this? You know, if you have to ask for one thing, yeah, no, don't bother. But Hollywood is, you know, full of the people who didn't quit. Everybody, you know, it's a hard slog, and you're a complete failure until you're a success. You know, there's no middle ground, and it's brutal. It's really one of the most brutal businesses there is. Filmmaking, that is.
But it's not necessarily true that. But it's not necessarily the case that you have to be in Hollywood.
Yeah, no, Hollywood
to
is a metaphor for
make good film.
Because I mean that's still where the movie business is. Not physically, but you know, Hollywood is the movie business.
Now, what are you tonight there, Dan?
What's that?
What are you drinking?
Just some bourbon. Or no, some scotch. I don't even know anymore.
Okay. And ladies, do you have beverages?
I don't have it with me.
Yes.
So pretend I have them.
April asked me before, hold your cup up there, April, so everybody can see it. Is this okay? What does your cup say, April?
Coffee.
Coffee makes me poop.
Love it.
Coffee makes me poop a lot. Makes me
Oh,
Cigars will help too.
it's true. So
I just
What
got to
are
be
some
me.
of what are some of
It's
the things
wine.
that is that the whole tea bag, the fake tea bag in the cup thing that's floating around? I've seen that for your Zoom meetings. You fake it. Oh, you just don't even attempt to hide it. One of the things I'm excited about is getting the she's got the giggles. She knew it would happen. Is getting together and shooting this when we can all get together and actually make it come to be. And Dan, what are your thoughts about production? Irene talked about it a little bit at the beginning. Production in a pandemic or post-pandemic world.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's going to be an issue for, probably through 2021. These things tend to linger. Eventually, it will be over, and we're not going to have to be too worried about it. Let's hope science, you know, overcomes stupidity, and uh, people people don't continue to be as reactionary as they are. Um, I mean, it's a movie set tends to be an intimate place, but it doesn't have to be you know too dangerous. I think everybody should be well aware of their own situation, and let's hope they get testing ramped up better than they have done. That's going to be important. And then everybody is so painfully aware of how you're supposed to interact and and behave now. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Um, I think when summer finally gets going, it snowed here today, but when summer finally gets going,
Yeah, we had snow
um,
too.
So did
these
we.
these diseases tend to wane a little bit. But yeah, you know, I'm sure we'll figure it out. That's my 2 cents.
April, Irene, are you guys that's your 2 cents?
Mhm.
Are you guys working on any, I know with the quarantine, probably not, but are you working on any other projects right now or have anything besides Glass House that you want to plug or talk about?
I have a short that I'm working on called Wicked Jack. And then I also just joined the cast of Reunion from Hell. Um, and I thought about auditioning for some other things, but no one really knows the start date for production, and it's all up in the air. So I don't want to schedule myself for too many things because I want to give my immediate focus to the Glass House project. So I'm trying to keep it small. That's where I'm at.
Irene, what about you?
Irene,
Well,
you have any?
with acting wise, it's all on hold. There was right before this all happened, I found out that I was more than likely going to be in doing background in Julian Fellowes' new series, The Gilded Age. He's the fellow, of course, who created Downton Abbey. And this takes place in the 1880s, think Carnegie, Rockefeller, all that sort of thing. And it was very exciting. People were really looking forward to this project. And then now, of course, it's all on hold. The last I heard was maybe filming will commence in September. But as we were talking about earlier, scripts are being rewritten to eliminate as many, a lot of people, particularly the background community. So it remains to be seen. I hope I can still be part of this project. So meanwhile, and Shannon, you're aware of this, over the past few years with different collaborators, I have a feature length, I've written screenplays, with collaborators, a feature length comedy, an hour-long drama series, and a half-hour comedy. So I've just for fun and just to kind of see what would happen, working on those, and entered the scripts in a couple of, like Script Pipeline and Stage 32, just for the experience, just to see if I get any notes back. So I'm doing that. Taking a few online classes. I also happen to be a real estate agent, so still keeping in touch with my clients. Hopefully, real estate does continue. The protocols are very different right now, as you can imagine, as far as showings and closings are virtual or all via DocuSign. People still need a roof over their head. So I keep up with my real estate clients and continue to send them listings in the hope that once things are better. And by the by, right now, as we're speaking, I'm in Putnam County, New York, visiting my mother. She lives in Patterson, but I live in Madison, Connecticut, which is on the CT shoreline. I'm about 25 minutes east of Yale, New Haven. So just to kind of put it into perspective. But so I'm just keeping up with my real estate clients, taking some, I just finished up all my continuing education that you have to do as a realtor every couple of years, just renewed my license, trying to live as normal a life as possible, to stay sane, if for no other reason. But yeah, it's very, very surreal. I also think it's, I don't know if you guys have given any thought to this. It's just a little over 100 years since the last pandemic, the Spanish flu. So I don't know if that's just a bizarre coincidence or if these things do tend to happen in 100-year cycles. I don't know. But I hope for all our sakes that we can safely return to our livelihoods and just get on with it. It's bizarre. I don't know what other word to use other than surreal.
Now, Dan, you've been working on your coffee line, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we finally got, I'm hoping to have the first batch done early next week. So I'll send you some.
Okay, and tell us a little bit. I love coffee. As a matter of fact, before we started, I was talking to April. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Getting my beverages ready." I'm a
Yeah.
coffee fiend. And you may have noticed me sneaking. I'm a snacker. So I've been sneaking snacks. But tell me a little bit about your coffee. It's Killer's Choice.
Killer's Choice. It's the favorite coffee of killers everywhere. It comes pre-ground. It's strong because killers don't have time to go grinding coffee. They just need it. They need it now. And so it's just good, weirdly marketed coffee.
And it's killerschoice.com, right? If people want
And it's
to
available at killerschoice.com.
jump on and get some. There you go. We've
Is
got
it
the web
coffee?
address up there. CW Penny is in the house.
Well, CW, all right.
Is it just coffee or are you selling other
Yeah, it's
things too?
We got the mugs in. We got Killer's Choice logo
Okay.
mugs. I put some T-shirts up there, which I got to get April one because I need a real promo picture. for a movie I've been working on for a
We
few
should
years.
do the mask, Stan.
Yes.
Yeah, we
don't
should do
forget.
masks, but the movie is Zombie Bear Attack, so you can buy a Zombie Bear Attack T-shirt. They're on sale right now. What else do we got? I don't know. We'll have other roasts and other blends of coffee soon, but the first one is hitting. Like I say, I hope I get it on Monday from the roaster. But then we'll come out with a few more. It's called the Grave Diggers Roast.
Okay.
There's nothing harder than night digging.
As I run the interested in having
Mhm.
interested in having your logo or product being our film is I have the scroll up about product placement
all
right
right.
now. So we'll have to get
Yeah.
some
Well, next
some
time we
there's
do
choice
this, everybody will have
in one
mugs and coffee.
we'll be
Mhm.
branded. So
I'm sure that's what the diner in the movie is going to be serving.
what
I love coffee.
Right?
exactly. So Dan, aside from the coffee, and you mentioned your zombie bear movie, what else do you have cooking?
Oh, I have a few feature scripts I've been peddling and have in various states of development. Still, always looking for that money. It's a challenge. Everybody says, "Oh, it's really hard to raise money now." It's always hard. It's never been easy. So I just keep plugging away with that. Got a few projects, acting roles circling. We'll see if anything comes of any of those. The whole world is up in the air right now, so I found it impossible to write, despite having all this time now. Which I think that's how I ended up finally getting the coffee done. It's just a distraction. Just taking it easy, surviving.
Oh, we've got Brian Evans has something about Slaughter Farm. He just wrote in the comments. That's another project that you've
That one
you've got
is
cooking,
probably
right?
the furthest along, and certainly the one we've had the most interest in. And it's a real straightforward kind of hardcore slasher movie. Some of my other scripts are a little more, I don't know, fanciful, sci-fi horror. That one's just a straight slasher movie, which I like. I'm working on a lake monster script. I want to do that.
Yeah, I love it.
But we'll see.
When you talk about the idea of financing and getting money
Yeah.
together to do a film, what are some of the biggest stumbling blocks that you've found? I mean, I know for me, I have the core budget for this project. I've been saving and scrimping and have been blessed in that regard. But for those that have projects and want to do projects, are Indiegogo's a good idea? Are Kickstarter's a good idea? Or is it better to do partnerships with people and seek out private investors and just do like a profit share and hope that they'll be able to get something on the back end, that the film will get picked up in distribution?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're doing. There have been some great high concept movies that were made for nothing that made a lot of money commercially. Those are very rare. And if you don't have any money, that's a great thing. But then you've got to have that idea. I haven't come up with one of those. All mine are pretty much straightforward feature films that, require a budget anywhere from 750 to, $5 million. And, I suppose there are those people with the star power who've been able to raise that on crowdfunding. I certainly couldn't. But, and you definitely don't want to just take somebody's money and hope you can pay them back. You really have to have a solid plan on, how you're going to sell the movie. And that's one of that's probably the biggest challenge these days is the entire movie industry has been turned on its head. The big studios don't understand anymore how movies make money other than the big blockbusters. That's why that's all they make. The small movies are the not superhero movies, they're getting hard to make because nobody really understands the business model anymore. It used to be, they knew if they put a movie out on so many screens in North America and it made so many dollars on opening weekend, they knew what the DVD revenue was going to be. That business model was so thoroughly fleshed out. But then, along comes all of these, well, first, as bandwidths improved around the world, and piracy was rampant. The movie industry got caught with their pants down, just like the music industry did.
Right.
People found they could steal any music they wanted, and so they stopped paying for it. And the movie industry thought they were safe from it because nobody had the bandwidth to download a movie. But that went away. And so anyway, I think they're all trying to figure out how we move forward. The good thing is that there are about probably a billion people in Asia all buying HD TVs who've never seen any of our movies. So companies that have big catalogs of movies are going to be able to continue to make money, but we'll see.
So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The projects you've written, your scripted material.
Yeah.
Do you have a literary agent or an entertainment attorney or a literary manager?
No.
Who pitches like?
Yeah, my career goal is to be a director. I haven't really been trying to just sell the scripts to anybody. Mm-hmm. I've had a couple of people, approach that, and so far I've kind of said no, but I don't know. Yeah, no, they're all niche horror, sci-fi horror movies. I think I can, and they're also low budget that I think I can find private investors to fund them eventually.
I heard an old adage, and I have no idea if this is true, that dentists in the Midwest like to invest in films. Have you ever, any of you guys ever heard of that one? That supposedly dentists.
Oh yeah,
I've heard that.
Yeah,
You have heard that?
Yeah, a friend of mine made a great movie. It was it was funded by this guy in Texas, you know, because he knew it was a biographical story, and he knew the person it was written about, and he said, "Man, we should make that movie." And he wrote the check for it. It was a couple $1 million.
Wow.
So, you know, yeah, and you know, I've got I got a buddy who has some friends in I think in Kentucky, and you know they made their money in coal mining, and they want to get into the movie business just because it's fun. Everybody wants to get into the movie business.
Mhm.
I've got a friend up here who owns a big winery. I told him I'm going to send him my Lake Monster script because his winery overlooks the lake where it takes place. We'll actually shoot at his location, but I have to finish the script, which I haven't done. All sorts of things to do.
Now, April, you've been pretty quiet. You're just sitting up there smiling. I don't know if the screen's frozen or if you're still with us. What are you most excited about with regard to Glass House in the film?
Um, See, gosh, the reason I'm quiet is because I keep messing up when I talk. I'm most looking forward to spending time with you guys. For real, I know what that says about me. Getting back to work, getting out of the house, you know, all that good stuff.
How about you, Irene? What are you looking most forward to with regard to this film?
Well, as I said earlier, this will be my first principal role, so I'm excited about having dialogue and to interact. I mean, I just can't wait for like April said, when we can all be together and create and see what we can do with this. So, you know, so I really appreciate the faith that all three of you are putting into me, and hope I don't let anybody down. But I'm looking forward to the challenge. You know, I just think it's going to be a hoot and a handbag, to tell you the truth.
When I worked on Dan's film, God, it was 2 years ago, right? A while ago. Watching Dan direct, I took a lot of mental notes and made a lot of observations because this is the first real project of any substantial significance or meaning for me. And I picked up a lot watching you, sir. And I hope that you go easy on me from an actor's point of view going forward. But what are you most looking forward to?
Well,
with regard to this film?
Yeah, this you know, it's as an actor, it's not my job to go hard on anybody. It's to realize your vision for the movie. You know, it's your baby, and you know that's the fun thing about making movies is, you know, it's an army of people all working towards a singular goal, and you know you're the one leading the charge. So, and everybody has their own style.
So let me ask.
I hope you didn't pick up any of my bad habits.
Well, you know, you and I did. You helped for a little quick funny story. Last fall, I said I met up with Dan at the Circle Drive-In in Scranton, and I had my flask, and he had a cigar, and we did a shot of Jameson, and I took a puff of his cigar because it was on my bucket list. Now, he's a cigar guy. So the one thing that Dan did as a director, when we would break, he'd have cigars. That's the one thing I won't be doing is having cigars. That one puff was enough for me.
Mm.
That one puff was enough. Now I have to ask, what sort of inspiration, or where are you looking or thinking about looking with regard to your characters for inspiration, April? Where are you turning? Are there any sort of shows or music or things that you're watching more of or thinking about? Or
So far, I've taken an account your perspective on it. You gave me some music to listen to, and you also suggested a few things for me to watch, and I've done all of those things. I basically am trying to put those all together, and I just can't wait to dive into this character and actually finally be her instead of reading about her. And I just hope that I make you proud.
oh, you already have. You've tolerated me for the
Aw.
last 2 years. So, Irene, how about you?
I've listened to the CD that you very kindly made for me, and I need to, listen to it again. But I did listen, like driving around in the car, listen to that. I enjoyed that very much. And I think I mentioned to you, Shannon, at one point not that we want to, copy another actor's performance, but if any of you guys have seen the Danish series Borgen, the lead character is Denmark's first female prime minister. And the series came out roughly 10 years ago, 3 or 4 seasons. I highly recommend it. And I can't think of the lead actress's real name, but she is brilliant. And if I'm going to pattern Madeline on anyone, I think it would be the character / actor from Borgen. The other thing that I've been watching lately, I should say my husband and I, and highly recommend it to you guys and anyone watching us, is Babylon Berlin. Have any of you been watching or are familiar with the series Babylon Berlin? It's on Netflix. I can't recommend it more. Season 1 came out in 2017. I myself only learned about it not too long ago, but it started in 2017. It is considered, I think, Germany's most expensive series to date. In our money, I think they spent, I don't know, upwards of, say, maybe 500 million euros or something crazy like that. I mean, just super, super. You have to watch it. That's all I can say. And it's a brilliant series. And season 3 recently wrapped up. But of course, it being on Netflix, you can, binge the whole thing, all 3 seasons in one evening if you care to. And my husband and I are in the middle of season 3. And I'm going to be so bummed when it's over with. It's everything as far as the acting, the cinematography, costumes, set decoration, it's the whole ball of wax. And I think as I watch it, I'm also studying the actors and thinking, what little things can I possibly take from this series, which, as I say, I just think it's beyond brilliant. So highly recommend it for anybody who wants something new to watch while in quarantine.
Dan, how about you?
I don't know. I always go back to. I usually start with some Akira Kurosawa samurai movies, and I look for the archetype character, that is closest to what I'm going for. Because they're, I don't know, they're so different, but you can find those essential elements, that make the character, and it's easier for me to conceive of it. Also, Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have
Mhm.
those characters that you can just grab onto. I find inspiration in those. So that's, and then often a character strikes me as somebody I know. Um,
Ah,
woe unto them, because then I do my impression of them the whole time. Um, but
it's funny you say that
it's
because when I was
it's mostly, I try not to do too much. There's it's mostly an exercise of restraint, in not overdoing it. Um, but yeah, you never know where inspiration is going to come from either. You know, we'll see.
it's funny you say about people you know. The other night I sent a copy of the script to a friend of mine to read, and as I hit the send button, I was shaking because I found, and I don't know those of you who write, that when I'm having a conversation with somebody, or if I'm out somewhere and I overhear just by circumstance or chance somebody say something, it gets
Uh-huh.
filed on some level. And then when I back and I'm working on something, it'll be there. It may not be the same context or circumstance, but those words will find their way out. Or that situation, but again, a different context will work itself into whatever I'm writing, whatever that scene is. And as I'm sending this new version or a previous version to people in my life that are close to me that I trust the most to read, I'm often nervous because I think to myself, are they going to read this and think, holy shit, does she like video or record when we converse, or does
Mm-hmm.
she take notes, or like what is she doing? Because we have a conversation like that, and I don't know if that's true for, I mean, I guess now it's not, you've confirmed it, just a similar experience for,
Well, yeah, writing
which is good, thank you.
writing is a completely different process. I always pretty much every character I've ever written was loosely based on somebody I know, and um, you know it takes a while as you're developing a script, um, for that character to fully blossom in your mind, and but when they do, they become real to you. It's fascinating. um, I remember reading some book about screenwriting, and you know the author said, the characters, you know will eventually just start talking to each other, and you're just there to write it down. And it's true. I've
Mhm.
had that happen. um, and they said some unusual things, stuff I've never heard anybody say before, which is kind of fun. uh, that's the infectious part. um, I find writing just so it's weird. I find so much of the movie business unbearable, but um, I can't quit. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
I know.
writing is horrible.
It's
I'm,
addictive.
I'm
And
sure.
people, I've done interviews about it, and the best explanation I've ever come up with is I absolutely hate writing, but I love having written. You know.
Mhm.
when it's done, it's great, but the process is just torture, absolute torture. So hang in there.
I had the experience a few years ago. A dear friend, in the context of a conversation, used a cliche, and I remembered the cliche, and or turn of phrase, I should say. The next morning, I woke up, bolted, set out of bed, found like an envelope, and a pencil, and it was like, I know this sounds as corny as hell, but it was like I was in a trance, and I came up with a log line for what is now the 1-hour scripted series I have with another collaborator, just based on 3 words in this phrase that someone had uttered the night before, and just all of a sudden, I mean, it took overnight, but I had to write this stuff all down. I don't know if you guys have had that same experience, Shannon. Maybe it's similar to what you said about hearing snippets of dialogue or snippets of conversation, and all of a sudden it's the seed of
Absolutely.
something.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Coach Sharon, I don't want to keep, I could keep talking all night, but I know even though we're in quarantine and there really is no place for you to go, you still have things probably to do. And on this, the eve of Mother's Day,
Yes, April.
Happy Mother's Day to a little early.
You have 2 children, April?
Yes,
And
I have 2 girls.
Yeah, I have 3 girls. Yeah.
and Dan,
It's a
thank you so
pleasure.
much.
I can't wait to be able to sit down with y'all and talk about this in private where we don't have spoilers. I have all sorts of questions, but anyway.
Oh, I do too, about the big spoiler now.
All right. Well,
We'll
I know it's a big twist.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll coordinate. We'll do a one of those Zoom or team things behind the scenes, and then we'll get together and we'll do another one of these.
Yeah.
And say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and those of you watching, thank you so much. And look for more news at Glass House the Movie on Facebook and Glass House Film on Twitter. Thanks so much.
Okay. Good night, all.